Welcome to the Light Reading Executive Spotlight Q&A. This is Light Reading's sponsored podcast series where we explore the people and technologies and ideas moving the industry forward. My name is Phil Harvey. Thanks for joining me. Today, my interview guest is Guy Hilton from Amdocs. Guy Hilton's title is Vice President of Strategy and Go-to-Market for Amdocs Cloud. And our main topic of discussion today is this concept of industry cloud. In this discussion, you'll hear about how that concept has implications for telcos and how it puts their capabilities front and center as they're making their networks more efficient, more automated, and more profitable. And you'll hear how Amdocs is assisting them in this effort. In our chat, you'll hear us discuss a projection by Amdocs that 64% of the $1 trillion cloud market measured in US dollars could benefit from industry clouds. In that section, Guy said 640 million instead of 640 billion, but we think you get the point. What he's basically saying is industry cloud is a very big potential market, and you'll find out all the particulars about why as we get into this interview with Guy Hilton, VP of Strategy and Go-to-Market for Amdocs Cloud. Guy Hilton, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Pleasure's all mine. And I'm excited about this topic we're delving into today. We're going to be talking about the concept of industry cloud. First of all, maybe you can explain to me what's unique about the concept of industry cloud and then what the market potential is for this part of the telecom sector.
Sure. So if you think about industry cloud, you can think of it as like a natural, logical next step or evolution for cloud solutions. So cloud solutions, as they become more mature and commoditized, they become more well embraced. The main challenge is that for certain verticals or industries, what happens is the generic cloud solution doesn't really fit well. So there's a lot of tinkering, APIs, landing zones, security issues that if you take just a generic plain vanilla cloud solution, you need to do a lot of tinkering in order to fit it to what you actually need. And that's where a lot of vendors, especially the hyperscalers, figured out that it's better if you have if you think about, look, we're in a recording studio, so let's talk about presets, right? It's easier if you come in and there's like a preset for a podcast or a preset for a video cast and so on. Same logic would be for industry cloud. So if I'm in a telco, maybe there's a preset that, X amount of percent of the tinkering work is already done for me. If I'm in healthcare, I need a different set of parameters to focus on. So industry clouds essentially solve a lot of issues that a generic one wouldn't do. Things like security and regulatory features. In data management, for example, which data do I need to monitor? What to include in the dashboards? What are the industry benchmarks I want to follow? Maybe I want to follow industry-specific predefined processes and workflows. Maybe integrate some new data models, and the list goes on and on. So as these things became more prominent and the need for these became more prominent, we saw and we still see additional industry cloud solutions being offered. And if you look at it from a market perspective, then if I'm trying just to walk through a lot of the analysis that was done by a lot of the leading analyst firms. So it's always on the top 10 trends, also for 24. Things like by 2027, more than 50% of the enterprises will use industry cloud platforms to accelerate their business. Based on, quick scan of publicly available information out there, there are over like 18 industry cloud solutions, and some analyst firms have even identified more than 40 verticals. So there's definitely a lot of traction there. It could easily be, you think as at the cloud market, sometimes people throw a rule of thumb and say it's probably, estimated around $1 trillion. Then in a few years, you're looking probably at, 64% of it would actually be industry cloud based. So I think it's like $640 million worth of industry cloud spend going to happen in the next few years. So definitely there's something there for the enterprises, and it's definitely a notion that's been catching on.
Oh, that's great. Great explanation. It's a significant market. Let's put it that way. The other
Definitely.
thing to remember too, especially in the enterprise world, is that not all enterprises are fully into the cloud yet. A lot of them have been holding off, have been waiting, and maybe just using select public cloud applications here and there and kind of putting a toe in the water. So their expectations, even though they're kind of lagging the pack, are actually going to be quite high when it comes to, you know, how quickly they want to be able to, get benefits from the cloud and how customized or how the look and feel of what they're doing needs to fit, their particular vertical. So I think the idea of the industry cloud sounds like a good one. It's not one size fits none. It's it's
Exactly.
it's based on real world data from the industry verticals, and then each company just sort of fitting into that, and then applying a couple of tweaks that make their company unique or their particular situation unique. Did I kind of get that right?
I think so. And if you think about it, a cloud journey is a significant undertaking for an enterprise, especially the big ones. They're moving their entire on-prem core at the end of the day to the cloud. It's scary, and you want to get as much reassurance as you can for that journey. So an industry cloud, especially one that was pre-designed for your industry, that has all the best practices of your industry, makes it a bit easier for them to actually encompass it and sort of, I think, go with that journey towards the cloud, because it takes away some of the, let's call it, fear factor, and it definitely presents a potential for better ROI, which always makes a better business case.
Yeah, agreed. What are some of the best practices that telcos should keep in mind when they're working on an industry cloud deployment? And I guess we could be talking about either their own or something on behalf of their customers too, because they're going to be, a trusted party in a lot of the digital transformation that's going on.
Correct. I probably would start with the former. What should they be looking for? Look, when I look at, there are usually the, let's call it, the usual suspects, thing you'd look for in a cloud solution, even before we get to the industry itself, right? So first of all, you want to have your entire organization aligned. Moving to the cloud, to a cloud solution which encompasses most or all of the aspects of your day to day in the organization, means you need to actually get the buy-in of the entire organization to move there. You definitely want to have the C-level suite at your side, and you want to have that support across your organization. Um, you want to see that that industry cloud solution works very well in a managed services, cloud operation, outsourced operation, because a lot of these, especially in telco, a lot of these potential customers, the service providers of the world, do work in a operating expense or OPEX model, in a sense that some or a majority of their operations are potentially outsourced. So how would such a solution work with your outsourced vendor and your partners and so on? So that's in general. If you look specifically at telecom, I think there are a couple of things that come into mind. I think the three prominent ones are, you want to look at how is security and resilience being tackled in that proposed industry telco platform, telco solution, because at the end of the day, uptime is a key issue, security is a key issue, and with service providers, think about your network, think about your customer base. You want to make sure it's as secure as possible. What happens to the data? Data is a huge element in how you monetize your business. So, does the industry cloud solution you're looking at have enough data presets, monitors the actual things you want to monitor, comes with best practices and benchmarks, so you know if you're successful or not, measures and creates the right dashboards? Are all of these being populated automatically as a preset, or do you really now need to go and flash those out and build those on your own? And I think last but not least is, more from a technical perspective, the actual landing zone. The minute you move to cloud, basically you think about it's the cloud foundation that everything else would grow upon. Is that cloud foundation telecom ready? Uptime, APIs, flexibility, everything that you need in order to grow in scale. I think these are probably the things you want to look at first. There are many others, but I would start with these.
Yeah, and those are pretty high marks, because the telco industry is definitely, like you said, it's one that's the value of a telecom company is predicated on connectivity, uptime, and how well they take care of their customer data. Those are the main points of being in the telco business. So I think you hit all of those, as um, key indicators of whether an industry cloud solution is the you know the right one for a telco deployment.
Yeah, and that feedback is built on multiple numerous conversations we have with our telecom customers, and these things keep on returning as a recurring theme. Security, data, flexibility, ROI, resilience. These are key things that they're looking for. So naturally, when they go and look at potential industry solutions, these were the things that they're going to check.
Totally makes sense. Okay, so if you're listening to this, you're probably in the telecom industry, and Amdocs isn't a stranger to you, especially if you're in the North American theater, because Amdocs is a big name in North America and a key software platform and systems integrator for a lot of the major telcos in this area. But uh, getting back to the industry cloud, Guy, why does Amdocs stand out as a systems integrator when it comes to industry cloud solutions?
So I think that's a very good question. If you think about Amdocs's legacy and Amdocs's strength, it lies from over 40 years of doing telecom operations. And the shift that's taking the industry now from its on-prem installations towards the cloud, we've already been doing it, for our own software portfolios and so on a long time ago. And what we've actually seen is we've taken all the expertise that we have serving our customers, all the expertise we have building our cloud native portfolio, and we poured it all into this industry cloud solution. So what you actually get is all the knowledge, the best practices, the know-hows, how to even avoid, the pitfalls of creating such environments from a telecom vendor that's been doing it, time and again, very, very successfully. Sometimes when we talk to our customers, it's interesting. One of the things they say, it's not enough to know what to do. Sometimes it's also important to know what not to do, because you can have, if you think about it, you can have a whole laundry list, a long laundry list of full of checkboxes that you want to check them all because everything makes sense. But it doesn't. It'll make the system cumbersome. It'll make it slow, maybe not as resilient. So it's always the matter of finding the right balance and that point of equilibrium that I think we bring to the table because we've done it so many times. We know where to focus on and what's not so important.
Yeah, and the scale that you guys operate at, with your customers, especially in North America, is remarkable. So one would assume that a lot of the issues that are going to pop up in any telco, you've either seen it before or you know exactly what's going on.
It's very true. If you think about it, when you look at the telco cloud solution or cloud management platform, really we have I always say we have an unmatched jumpstart because we've inherited all the knowledge and capabilities that we've really accumulated over the decades in our managed services organization from before the days of cloud. And now we've actually taking it and pouring all that goodness into the cloud. And we're doing it for over 50 leading telcos around the world. And they're the tier ones, the biggest and most sometimes challenging environments from a technical perspective you need to manage. So all that knowledge and all those best practices are being poured into that solution.
So that's Amdocs as a systems integrator. What sets the Amdocs industry cloud platform itself apart? For the one that's targeted toward telcos. What sets that apart from other solutions that are in the industry?
Well, I think there are several things that when we look at it, we see that we differ from others. First of all, we really have the benefit of an extensive BSS, OSS network product portfolio and heritage. So most, or I'd say none of the other players really have that from a cloud perspective. So our understanding of really how to manage the applications, especially the core, is very, very unique. I don't think if you look at the offerings around the telecom industry in specific, I don't think there's a cloud product and managed services play by any other vendor. So the combination of this gives us really a lot of, I call it, viewpoints on how these things should be managed, not just from a specific point of view, but rather from multiple ones, which always makes it a bit more in depth, a bit more robust when you look at the platforms. Um, when we look at the actual capabilities of the platform, it kind of goes back to what we started talking about at the beginning of our conversation. So things like security and regulatory features that are relevant to your operation in specific, data management that is relevant in with the know-how of what to include in your dashboard so you can get them up and running quickly. What are the industry benchmarks for billing, charging, network operations, and so on? How do you integrate industry specific data models, connectors, APIs? How do you streamline development so you can really enable things like cost reduction, rapid time to value? All of these items, which seem fairly straightforward, are actually behind each one of those, call it, bullet points I just went through. Um, there's a lot of know-how and a lot of things that can go wrong if you're doing it from a pure cloud perspective with no understanding of the actual telecom environment you're in. So our deep understanding of cloud in one, and the fact that we've been servicing the telecom industry for over 40 years, I think that's a unmatched combination that people would be hard pressed to compare to.
I think on the technical and operations side, you made an excellent argument. Now let's talk about the folks in the CFO's office.
Okay.
How how does this industry cloud platform translate to some tangible benefits for telcos? With an eye toward their business challenges.
So what at the end of in order to answer that, let's take sort of a step back or a zoom out and see what is essentially a service provider is all about, right? It's about monetizing the assets that it has in the best way while creating the best customer experience possible. So it's a recurring experience for the customer and essentially monetization opportunities for the service provider. So you want to minimize, things like order fallouts. Order fallout means less money. So if you have highly automated processes which are telco specific, that helps the bottom line, right? Billing rejects. That's also something that's something you want to avoid as much as you can. Same thing. If you have an automated process which is telco specific, great. What happens if you need to identify error codes, understand desired resolutions, put those resolutions into effect? These are all, you can call them technical elements that influence the monetary aspects of the day to day of the service provider. And there are naturally more of these. So it's not just that let's call it the IT network, the cloud teams would have an easier time setting it up, which means they're more productive, they're more efficient, and it takes them less time to get to the perceived value they need to get to. That's one way of looking at, why would the business case be for implementing an industry solution. It has an immediate impact also on the day to day of versus how you do it today and how would you do it with an industry cloud. A lot of the, call it, semi-manual, semi-automated work that you need to do is just gone because everything now is preset for you. You can always go and retweak it, but it's almost like you get something that's finely tuned towards your needs, also from a financial perspective. And then on top of that, you can add whatever you want. But from the get go, you're already in a much more productive, efficient, cost efficient, and then also agile environment that enables you to quickly turn around new revenue ideas.
No, that's a great overview because I mean, with telcos, as we're seeing in the 5G world, they're not going to be, their consumers are price sensitive. They're not going to be able to raise prices every time, every quarter to continue to
Correct.
to
Every time there's a new G, right? So 3G and 4G was the promise of 3G. 5G is now the promise of 4G. They're already
right.
talking about 6G and 7 and and moving forward. So every time there's a new generation or a new G coming up, one of the key questions is, so but how would you monetize it? Some of it has new capabilities that consumers really like, so you definitely want to do that. And some actually have to go into, it'll be more cost effective, easier, more productive, and so on. I think with 5G also, it's not just about the consumers, it's also about the business sector. So can you really create new offerings that are relevant for the enterprise market and turn those around quickly? And if you want to fail fast, fail cheap, and everything that we always talk about. So with cloud, it's definitely the way to go because it's easier to experiment. And with an industry cloud that has those switches built in, I think it makes it even, I think, a more comprehensive solution for you to try out.
Okay, so as we round out the conversation here, Guy, can you point me to a couple of examples of industry cloud in action so that our audience can kind of get a more well-rounded picture of what's going on here?
Sure, I'm happy to share. Maybe I'll share two examples, recent examples from our own deployments with our customers.
Cool.
So the first one that springs to mind is probably PLDT in the Philippines, where we're actually providing a full set of that industry cloud solution. So anywhere from the cloud strategy that started through planning consultancy and cloud security and operations services. And we're really deploying our new AI-driven cloud operations platform. So it's hosted on AWS, and the platform itself helps them um, to optimize and scale the infrastructure performance and resources as needed. And because it's an industry cloud solution and it's a holistic approach, it brings you basically an holistic capability for cloud adoption and management. And that would bring operational resilience, which in turn would lead to business agility, innovation, and really make sure the services have a high level of continuity. The
Excellent.
second one I'll probably want to talk about is Globe, which is also in the Philippines. And there we're really deploying this, what we call the AI powered cloud management platform to really hyper automate across all the different Globe business processes and transform their IT operations and really enabling the IT to transform itself from a center into what we call a critical enabler for the business growth. And that really entails things like departing from the conventional approach of treating operational excellence and business growth as a separate entities with different KPIs and objectives, and moving to a new service model where operational excellence and business success can be measured using the same metrics and KPIs and promoting things like comprehensive accountability throughout the entire process. And all this is enabled by actually deploying our industry cloud solution or the cloud management platform that Amdocs provides.
That's excellent. Yeah, no, that's a great, two great examples in a country that's, let's see, for those who need a reference, it's slightly larger than the state of Arizona,
Yeah,
maybe about twice the size of Georgia if you're from the South. But a remarkable place because you've got not just a challenging terrain, but a population density, and then you've got to um, bring all the benefits of the cloud forward because the telcos there are also serving a price sensitive population. So it's sort of all the things we've already talked about rolled into one, in terms of being able to meet those challenges for those carriers. So I think those are excellent examples. Let's see. Any last thoughts, Guy, as we wrap up?
well, I think our industry is always in perpetual motion to innovate and to make itself even better. I think we're now in one of those cycles where now industry cloud is probably the most coveted type of approach that people or organizations are looking for. And I think this is only the first phase of it. We're at the first phase of industry clouds, and as time goes by, we'll see additional requirements and additional challenges and additional requests from customers to add more depth, more sophistication, branch into other aspects of the telecom world that as cloud becomes more prominent, more I'd call it mini verticals within telco would actually be open up and would need to be embedded into such a platform. So I think my advice is stay tuned because there's a lot more to come from us and from the market.
I think that's very well said, Guy Hilton from Amdocs. Thank you so much for being on the Executive Spotlight Q&A.
Thanks very much. It's been a pleasure.